UFC Fight Night London, Edwards versus Brady just wrapped up. We're going to give you our initial reactions and our overview of the card. Not the most exciting card, didn't live up to some of the hype that we had for it earlier on.
Leon Edwards, you were coming in with the movie reference. I got one of my own. I wouldn't steal yours.
All right.
But my man, he's done. He's like the Titanic, bottom of the ocean. I realistically don't see a world where Leon still fights at the top of welterweight anymore.
It doesn't look that way. This fight, I feel like, was kind of that last straw, especially against a guy like Sean Brady, which, you know, he's fine. He did get finished by Bilal Muhammad. That's what he's most known for in his career. The reference that I had for the movie was, I feel like in Revenge of the Sith, when Padme's like, you're going down a path I cannot follow. It's like the UFC right now. You know?
Yeah.
Feels like it's going down a path I can't follow.
I mean, when Sean Brady's going to be the #1 ranked welterweight.
Oh, that's crazy. Anyways, let's start off with the very first top of the card. Leon Edwards or Sean Brady. I mean, it was a dominant performance by Sean Brady.
Unreal. Like, probably one of the most dominant performances I've seen in a long time. You know, I think of performances that compare, maybe like Fluffy Hernandez versus Michelle Pereira. Very similar fight, just absolute dominance from the grappler against the striker. Mm-hmm. You know, Leon Edwards in that second round had not a single significant strike.
Yeah, he had 0 in round 2 and I think 3 or 4 in round 3. So he almost got no offense off. When he was walking out, I was actually confident. He looked so ready. He was fired up. He was running out of the area and for the walkouts, and I was like, okay, he's back. He might be back. And it didn't feel like his corner was doing anything like extra, like they weren't trying to clip farm. So I was like, maybe everything's kind of normal now. But as the fight progressed, like the second round specifically was when you were like, he's not even trying to wake up. Like he's not trying to get up anymore.
Yeah, first round wasn't terrible, you know.
It's close.
Leon usually starts slow.
Yeah.
You know, that's how he fights, you know. And I mean, the first 5 seconds were like, what's going on
I
here?
know.
Like, this is a full out brawl. Give these guys the BMF belt. And then, I mean, I didn't think that Leon could do worse than he did against Bilal Muhammad. And
True.
This was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 steps down from that. Like it was actually embarrassing.
I was surprised he got finished. You know, I don't see Sean Brady as a guy with a lot of finishing potential. I thought this fight was a guaranteed decision, and here we are, submitted by Sean Brady in round 4. I mean, it's just purple.
Purple performance. Explain the purple performance for us, Lucas.
It was just a poor performance. Like, there's nothing more to say. Leon Edwards, his next matchup, like you said, Ian Gary, maybe.
Yeah,
I think that's a good matchup for him.
You feed him to someone. I think Ian Gary's a great matchup. Maybe one more matchup before then, because I think Leon's probably gonna take some time off.
Yeah,
6 to 8 months, I would assume, maybe even a year.
But he doesn't have much time left. He's what, 35, 36?
Yeah, but what's he gonna do? Go back? I mean, whatever he wants to do, I think that he's a great name to add to one of the up and comers of welterweight.
Yeah. It makes you question a lot of things, performances like this, you know. Let's move on down the card. Okay, we'll talk about this one before we go any further. Our boy, Jan Blachowicz, you know.
On his 80th birthday.
One of the biggest stars of this YouTube channel. It was really exciting to see him come back after a 2-year layoff. It was a close fight, but Carlos Ulberg just edged out the 2-1 decision over Jan Blachowicz.
One thing about this card is that I don't envy the judges. You know, they may have made some weird decisions, but the amount of close rounds that it's like, call it a draw. Call it a draw, because I mean, outside of round 2, I believe was the round that Jan was fully in. Like, I feel like it was either round 1 or 2 where Ulberg was on the back foot. No, it was round 1. Round 1, Ulberg was on the back foot basically the entire fight. Round 2, I would say was slightly Ulberg, and then round 3 was a toss-up. You know, that was a common theme with this card. You know, we came in with a lot of close betting odds, so we were expecting close fights, and this was one of the many close fights on this card. Ultimately, I was shocked with how our Blachowicz approached this fight, not going to the ground at all.
He shot like once.
He shot one takedown, didn't work.
Yeah.
You know?
I think like after the second round, when he was losing pretty clearly in the striking, I thought he was going to switch it up, because it worked against Pereira. You know, he held him down in the second round at the end of it, and even at the end of the third round, and almost won that fight. So I was impressed by Carlos Ulberg's cardio. It feels like he took a big step up.
That's what I was going to say. I think we were very high on Ulberg, and then post Ozdemir fight, we were very low because of that cardio. Who knows, that's just because because Blachowicz takes fights very slow.
Yeah.
Didn't really have to test the cardio of Alberg. It was not like this was a fast-paced fight.
No, he's a very predictable fighter.
Like if you had Alberg versus Roundtree, I would love to see the cardio in that fight, just because Roundtree's a brawler, he's a blitzer. You know, he's going to make it dirty. But I mean, props to Alberg for getting a great win over Jan Blachowicz. I think that
he could be next now. Like
after Pereira, I think people might try to discredit this win because of Blachowicz's age. But
I'm going to discredit this win.
But
I'm that guy.
But I think realistically, maybe an Alberg-Yuri fight next.
That would be fire.
In the time between Ankalaev Pereira 2, as long as that's the next fight to happen. But I wouldn't say it was a decisive win for Alberg. You know, it's not one of those statement wins that really projects you to the top. But a good, solid win over Jan Blachowicz.
I think if he would have gotten a KO, he would have leapfrogged Yuri. Yeah. But after this, I think Yuri...
He's still one fight away.
Could take the winner of this and beat them.
He has no... Yeah, he wouldn't... He's not on the level of Ank or Pereira. And I don't even know if he's on the level of Yuri.
No, I doubt it.
Let's go down to the bottom of the card.
First fight, Guram Kudzoladze, the Georgian legend who had both Topuria brothers and Hamzat Chimaev in his quarter, got 30-27. I think 30-26 on one judge's scorecards. It was a rough fight for him.
Oh, man.
No offense. Cal Fernandez dominated him the entire time. Impressive performance from Cal Fernandez. I think this is a big win for him. And Kudzoladze, maybe retire. Like
as a minus 400 favorite too.
I just don't see
where he goes.
Like, what's the point? You know, he's already relatively older, you know, so it's not like he's a young prospect who's going to bounce back. He's fights once a year, sometimes once every year and a half. Nathan Fletcher versus Kalen Lavrin. I thought this was a very close fight. I thought Nathan Fletcher won this fight, and that's not my bias. He was close in round one. I thought that Nathan Fletcher did more on the feet. Kalen Lavrin did more with like clinching and takedowns. But even in the clinch, I think Nathan Fletcher had a lot better knees. So if we're talking about damage, I think Nathan Fletcher just could have edged out the first round and the third round based on that last 30 seconds where he absolutely just went to town on Kalen Lavrin against the fence. So I think if you give at least one of those rounds, I'm not saying both, I'm just saying one of those rounds, if you give it to Nathan Fletcher, he should have won that fight, but he didn't.
I mean, we look at the significant strike or the total strikes, 114-65. Very rarely does a guy lose after having 114-65 strikes.
Yeah, and I felt like with the takedowns, it's not like Kalen Lavrin did that much.
Yeah, it wasn't like he wasn't actively trying to submit him, you know?
Bro,
this is one of the biggest shocks of the night.
I finally watched a good women's fight with a highlight KO.
I didn't watch this fight. I think I was showering, getting ready or something.
Brutal.
Lucas texts me, and he's like, did you see that? I'm like, no, it's a women's fight. I didn't watch it. Of course. Like, who do you think I am?
I can't believe, dude. When I told the people not to bet on an Indian and you said Canadian fighter, that's just the law.
Yeah.
I was so worried because Pooja Tomar head kicked Shauna Bannon, and I was like, "Oh, we are so cooked in this video." Like our
predictions were bad.
So
this
bad.
Might be historically bad for Dodson's corner.
Yeah,
but I think that you have to give credit to how close this card was. You know, there were so many very close odds, and I think sometimes we root for the hometown boys and girls a little too much.
You have to.
You think that they're going to get it done in England, you know?
You got it. But Shauna Bannon, she got that arm bar and locked it up really fast. It was a good fight. It was a fun fight. It was on the feet for most of the time. I actually enjoyed this fight. Christian Leroy Duncan.
CLD got it done.
Pretty clear.
Yeah. Puliev just looked not even on the same level. CLD just completely dominated for basically 3 rounds. Puliev was running away.
Yeah. It was like I said in the breakdown of our predictions, Puliev always on the back foot, and the speed advantage was there for CLD.
They were just on different levels. CLD is, you know, I wouldn't say he's like on the edge of the middleweight rankings, but he's not far away. He's in the top 25 probably, and Puliev just isn't on that level.
I mean, his most recent loss was to RoboCop.
So
and that was a hard fought fight. Next up, something that I thought was absolutely insane at the time.
Let me set the scene. So there's about a minute left in this fight, and I'm like, you know what? I think it might go Tybura 2-1. And Luke is like, no shot.
It's Mick Parkin, bro, in England.
Yeah. You know what? Like, you cannot call this fight a robbery.
No. That's not what I'm saying.
Mick Parkin decisively won round 2. Rounds 1 and 3 were up in the air. Mm-hmm. You know, I personally leaned Tybura round 1. Round 3 was very much a coin toss. You know, I think that the unanimous decision was a little bit of a surprise for me, but Parkin didn't do anything to actively try and win either rounds 1 or 3. And I think the thing that I saw that I liked the most with this fight wasn't a robbery, but not good for the division. Sets back the division having one of your top 2 prospects in the heavyweight division, which is already so shallow, go out and lose to Tybura.
Dude, not the prospect, the crash out from MMA Guru was insane. I mean, he's so biased, like so are we, but we don't post on Twitter in all caps. I thought when I heard unanimous decision, I was even more confident that it was for Mick Parkin, just because, a close fight where in general, Mick Parkin, I think over the course of the fight did better. It was just specifically in round 2 that he did a lot better. I think it's fair, Marcin Tybura, I think the first round clearly went to him because of the forward pressure. Yeah,
and I think if we look at it with MMA is we judge round to round. If we judge this as a fight as a whole, Parkin had a better performance in the fight, but he didn't have the better performance throughout all 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's a tough one to get your head around.
But it's okay.
Because it's a prospect.
Because absolute banger, Lucas, take it away, your boy.
I'm sure this has to be, we haven't seen any of the bonuses, but surely this is fight of the night.
I would have to assume so. One of the I would say maybe even the second best fight of the year so far. I think that the third round was a little bit slow, but
first round, Loner Kavanagh gets hit by a huge shot, and I was really worried.
He was shaking in his boots.
Anything can happen in flyweight. All these guys are so fast, but after that, he kind of regained composure. I would say the first round definitely went to Felipe Dos Santos, but then the second round, Loner Kavanagh was just beating up on him.
I think one judge gave him a 10-8 in that second round.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then the third round was Kavanagh was back in the driver's seat. Wasn't as dominant as the second round, but it was a really decisive 2-1 win for Loner Kavanagh.
It was
great performance. I think that we could see the rankings potentially in his next fight, although
depends.
There is some, you probably don't want to match him up against a Joshua Van or a Kaya Sakura just because it's not the greatest to go and put these prospects against each other. But Tim Elliott,
I think he could be a big star. They might just give him a big matchup already. He has a lot of name value, I was impressed about everything. Like, I think he deserves the hype.
Oh, yeah.
His grappling and scrambling was incredible. And his ground and pound, like, that is vicious. We don't see that. That's what you actually enjoy to see. And same with earlier on in the card, Nathan Fletcher. Like, when he had the body lock, he was...
that's later in the card.
No, Nathan Fletcher.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah, he was beating up on him in the body lock. Like, that's what I want to see from these young guys who need a decision win. They can't just be sitting there in position. If Loner Kavanagh would have accepted just, kind of hugging Felipe Dos Santos while he was on top position, he probably would have lost that third round. Because Felipe Dos Santos was good off of his back. He was getting elbows off. It was a bloody fight.
I do want to give credit to Felipe Dos Santos here. Loner Kavanagh had an amazing performance. Felipe Dos Santos had a great performance. This is one of those fights where I think both guys' stock raises from it. Felipe Dos Santos had a really good fight here.
Yeah, and if you're wondering why Dylan is here for a breakdown of a card, it's because
it's Saturday and I'm not at church.
He was almost cut from Dodson's Corner. I said he had to come. All right, next up, Jai Herbert versus Chris Padilla. I locked in for this prediction. I had Chris Padilla. Dude, what even happened in this fight? I didn't watch.
I actually forgot this fight happened.
So boring.
We watched, but nothing actually happened.
No. I was watching the rounds and I was like, okay, was there like a total of 10 strikes thrown?
Yeah.
Chris Padilla shot a takedown and ended up on his face. Like, I don't know. To put this as your featured prelim is pretty crazy to me. Jai Herbert has name value in the UK, but it's not big enough to overthrow a guy like Mick Parkin or Marcin Tybura, which actually have rankings next to their name. Yeah,
this was just a tough watch.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that Mick Parkin was a good fight. I'm saying that it just makes sense. The bout order would have made sense. Loner Kavanagh would have been better at this spot.
Exactly.
But hindsight is 2020, so could have been a head kick KO for Jai Herbert, and everyone would have gone crazy. Moving up the card, we'll just gloss over these two really quick, or these three. Nathaniel Wood had a very, very good performance.
Yeah, I was disappointed in Cherie. Big favorite, had that awesome performance in France. Had, I think, back-to-back or maybe 3 in a row knockout performances. I think it was back-to-back, but Nathaniel Wood just looked fast. He was so fast. Just looked so good. Was the better fighter.
There's nothing more to say. He rocked Morgan Charrier earlier in the fight, and then after that, Charrier just couldn't really find his footing. There was a clear speed disadvantage, and let's be honest, Morgan Charrier isn't going to take it to the ground.
No,
and I think not what he does.
Next fight, Vucenic versus Chris Duncan. Chris Duncan was just in the driver's seat. I think very disappointing performance for Vucenic, with being such a big favorite on this card, and just got hit early, and then inevitably next round tapped out. So
yeah, I was surprised at how willing Vucenic was to go to the ground and like get locked up in that guillotine, because it was Chris Duncan has a nasty guillotine. In the France card, that was like it started the card. Chris Duncan gets a crazy submission. The dude's out cold, like his head's flopping on the mat, and then he does the same thing, not to that extent to Jordan Vucenic, but another really solid performance for Chris Duncan, and maybe he gets an even bigger matchup next because he keeps winning, which is surprising. And then this fight, I said Alexia Thainara was the better fighter, but maybe Molly McCann would, plot armor her way to a win by KO.
She did not.
She did not.
She looked old. She just looked past her prime. And I think it was a good retirement on her part,
Yeah, I think it was expected as well.
Yeah. I think being in the UK, just hanging up there. Interesting that she says England there. She definitely, is she English?
Scouse.
Ah.
Yeah,
but
Paddy Pimlet's best friend.
Thainara, is that how you pronounce that?
Thainara. She looked good.
She looked good. First fight off the Contender Series to get a win over someone like Molly McCann, who has some name value,
and a finish.
Yeah, exciting to see what could happen in the future for her.
I think it looked like a performance that could have been in the rankings. Like they looked actually decent.
Yeah, it was like, I think I didn't watch the first fight, but this was like a high level fight. And I think that interesting what happens for Thainara. Maybe already fighting the rankings, You never know with women's MMA.
Yeah, there's not much substance to go around.
And then our last fight, Gunnar Nelson versus Kevin Holland. He's back.
Dude, we finally got a Kevin Holland prediction right. So happy.
Yeah, I mean, what else can you say? Kevin Holland looked great in this fight. Gunnar Nelson looked old and slow compared to Kevin Holland, who just looked dominant. Those elbows
was in
were
the driver's seat the entire time.
Those elbows were nasty. The ground and pound was nasty. Even when Kevin Holland was on his back, he was the one in control of those ground exchanges.
Yeah, I was impressed how much better he looks at welterweight compared to middleweight.
Yeah, and he said in his post conference, it's just that the guys up in middleweight, they're just too strong for him.
Yeah,
and that's fair enough. He's like he could go and stand with someone in middleweight, but the second it's on the ground, they're just too big for him.
Well, in his last fight, when you weigh in at 183 pounds
against RDR,
and RDR rehydrates to 220, or something like that, 210, it's not even fair. They have 30 pounds on you. That's insane. So it's nice to see him back in the win column. I think his next matchup could realistically be anyone. Like he said, he's willing to fight in middleweight again, which I think is a big mistake. But
yeah, I would personally want to see him in welterweight because
I think he could get back to the rankings in welterweight.
I think so too. Honestly. Like I think he could even be the guy outside of welterweight that the guys have to pass through. Although we don't have a lot of welterweight prospects, but Kevin Holland versus Brian Battle.
That'd be good.
That'd be a good fight.
The build-up would be good.
Oh, that'd be a good presser.
But I think if you compare him to like Neil Magny, who was just in the rankings, not even half a year ago, like he's better than Neil Magny.
I would say so too.
So I think there's a chance he gets back into the rankings. Just hold down that 15 spot for people.
Yeah. Ultimately, UFC London, did it reach our expectations that we expect from these international cards? No, I think we've been spoiled in the past with these international cards, but it wasn't a bad day of fights, we could say.
Yeah.
It just wasn't what we expected. I'm
so tired, dude. I'm so tired.
We were worried that we weren't going to see any finishes. It started to drag a little bit. We both kind of like laid down and were like on the edge of napping. But
somehow Sean Brady was the one who got a finish, which is crazy. I mean, Kevin Holland almost got a finish too. He knocked him down. So we had one finish, two finish. Okay, let's count the guy fights. We had one finish,
two. I think it was just two.
And then there was one. No,
it was just the women's. There was only two male finishes, 4 in total, including the women's. So
it's not the
33% average.
Yeah, actually, that's not great.
Yeah,
that's really not great. Anyways, that was UFC London. Let us know what your favorite fight of the night was. Let us know what's next for Sean Brady. Let us know what's next for Leon Edwards. We were thinking maybe Edwards retires.
Yeah, I was ready for him to put the gloves down.
It wouldn't have surprised me. He's older now,
What comes next for him? So
I think Ian Gary would be a great matchup.
That's going to do it for us, you guys. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.